I want to call to order the February 23rd, 2021 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees. If I can have a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we convene an executive session for the purpose of discussing student appeals and student admission requests into the district's adult education program.
Second.
Motion's been made by Dr. Caution Parker, seconded by Ms. Mackey. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we will now take the vote. Let me, I think we got a board member calling in, so give me just a second here. If someone will let me know when Dr. Elkins is on the line. Dr. Elkins, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. We are at the vote for executive session. Motion was made by Dr. Caution Parker, seconded by Ms. Mackey. There was no discussion, so I asked for the vote. If we can, Dr. Elkins, are you logged on?
I am not.
All right, if we can do a voice vote, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. We'll now go into executive session. I want to reconvene the February 23rd, 2021 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees, where we just returned from executive session. If I can have a motion regarding the end of executive session, please. It was 5:38.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move that the record reflect that the board concluded executive session at 5:38 p.m.
Motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have the vote. Dr. Elkins, are you logged on?
No, I'll be voting by voice. My vote is yes.
Okay, everybody else, if we can use our devices. Did you vote by hand in the affirmative? Motion passes 7-0. Actually, I'm going to need a motion. Apparently, we had a cross up on time with our inspirational moment. I'm going to ask that with the approval of the agenda, if we can move item 3.1 further down in the agenda. If whoever makes that motion could please include that delay. Ms. Mackey.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Mackey.
I'd like to move that when we discuss the approval of the agenda, that the record reflect that item 3.1, inspirational moment and pledge of allegiance, be moved further down the agenda, and I'm asking the liberty of the board to be fluid with that when the person who gets here can slide in then. So I'm asking that 3.1 be moved further down the agenda. Open-ended. It's an open-ended.
All right, can you just, for approval of the agenda, will you make a motion to approve the agenda with item 3.1 being moved further down in the list?
I am.
Okay, so that was your motion for approval of the agenda?
That 3.1, I move that item 3.1, inspirational moment and pledge of allegiance, be moved further down the agenda, period.
Okay, so I have a motion for approval of the agenda with the item 3.1 being delayed until the speaker gets here. Can I have a second on that motion? Second. Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion?
As a part of discussion, I take ownership of that. The person who is doing our inspirational moment, I don't think I clarified the time, so I take full responsibility for that. I'm looking forward to hearing from him. But the reason he is not here at the start of the meeting is I'm sure is my fault, so I take full responsibility for that. Thank you all for your courtesy if you're voting in the affirmative.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Is there any other discussion on this, on the approval of the agenda with the moving of item 3.1 further down? There's no further discussion. If we can have the vote. Oops. Change my vote. Yes. Dr. Elkins, are you voting in the affirmative?
Yes, I am. And just for the record, Mr. Chair, I've been blessed over the weekend to get married to a wonderful man. So my name is now Dr. Scott. So I would just ask that I am addressed by Dr. Scott. Thank you.
Dr. Scott, I will do that. Please forgive me if I slip up during the meeting. I will do my absolute best to not do that, but thank you and congratulations. Motion passes 6 yes, 1 no. And approval of the consent agenda, if I can have a motion. Ms. Mackey, will you hit your button, Ms. Mackey? Sorry.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion's been made by Ms. Mackey for approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, if we'll take the vote, Dr. Elkins, if you'll please voice vote. Dr. Scott, I apologize. Dr. Scott, if you will please voice vote.
Yes, my vote is yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Davis, rather. In the affirmative, Dr. Caution Parker? Okay. Motion passes 7 yes, or motion passes unanimously. Executive session items, item 7.1, student admission request into the district's adult education program. If I can have a motion, please.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey,
I move to admit the one student who's desiring admission into the district's adult education center.
motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, if we can have the vote, please, and Dr. Elkins, a voice vote. Dr. Scott, a voice vote. I promise.
My vote would be yes. Thank you.
I promise I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm a slow learner. Okay. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing. I believe there was an omission or a skip in the agenda at item 6.1 for public participation.
Goodness, thank you. Wow, I'm off my game. All right. We've already taken the vote on the executive session item, so we'll let that go through and I'll back up to item 6.1. Thank you, Dr. Davis. And please, everybody accept my apologies. Dr. Scott and the public, I'm trying to keep up. Okay, thank you. And the vote passes unanimously. I'm going to move back to the public participation, and after public participation, our speaker for the inspirational moment and Pledge of Allegiance is here, so we will do that item after public participation in that order. So first for public participation, I have Gary Ginn. If you'll please come to the podium, and if I pronounce that wrong, please correct me when you get to the podium. Please keep in mind that these are video recorded and we are not to mention any particular names of students or staff. And you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Manning, for letting me speak today. I would like to say that I appreciate everything that the school board is doing in participation and trying to get our kids back in school. My child is at Blythewood High School, and he's struggling like a lot of other kids. And I know I talk to a lot of parents around the school, and in the school district. And most of the problem is that somehow or another, I request that y'all do your best to try to understand that we understand as parents that teachers have a hard problem getting back into school, some of the health issues, but we also have to understand our kids are suffering not only from health issues, but learning issues and issues of being very sad and not being able to socialize with kids their own age. Not only are they suffering in school, but they're also suffering in that their parents, in most cases, if they're under a certain age, their parents have to stay home. And when their parents have to stay home, the parents and the family suffers not only financially, but also in trying to keep their kids focused, not doing their work, but keeping their kids focused on their schoolwork. A 16-year-old has a lot of problems sitting in front of a computer for 5.5 hours with 15-minute breaks in the morning and 30 or 40-minute breaks at lunch and then a 15-minute break in the afternoon. Even I, as a parent, I have a problem with sitting in front of a computer basically all day. But I just request that y'all would understand that us as parents, the majority of us that I've talked to, we want our kids back in school 5 days a week. We understand that the teachers have a problem. We understand that we as parents have problems. But if we don't get them back in school, I'm afraid for mine, that I'm going to lose him not only socially, but in the future, as us as parents, we're going to have to rely on our children to pay our bills and Social Security, Medicare. It all runs downhill from here. If they don't get a good education, then they're not going to be participants in life. And I just hope that y'all would, I know a lot of y'all have kids in the school, but man, somehow or another, we've got to get these kids in school. We're sending a double message, a bad message, when we let them participate in sports.
Mr. Ginn.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I hate to cut you off, but your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming to speak to us. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And while Ms. Roof is cleaning the podium, other duties as assigned, if I can have Jeff Rimmer, please come to forward. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Mr. Rimmer, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jeff Rimmer. I'm a proud member at Must Be Blythewood Night of the Bengal Nation out there, and a member of the athletics department through my son's participation in soccer. I wanted to just bring up to the board's attention that there is a process for return to play. It usually is worked out through recommendations to the South Carolina High School League, back through the athletic directors, and then also in coordination with a member of your staff here who was brave enough to put her number on the website and spoke to me for about an hour and a half, Dr. Suber, who I learned a great deal about. The reason why I'm here, though, is that Richland, too, at least in my review of the state, I'm a referee, so I referee in several counties, and I've also watched other games in other counties, has some stipulations on their return to play that aren't at other locations. Some parents have asked me about that. I do research things, try to find out where these are coming from, where these rules are coming from. And as I said, I took this to my athletic director and the coaching staff, as well as Dr. Suber, in speaking with him. It's my understanding the South Carolina High School League comes out with kind of a best practices or what's best for the return to play. Those items are discussed. And the AD works with Dr. Suber and a small committee, as I understand it in my speaking with her, and they determine what the ground rules are going to be for return to play. In 2 instances, there are some parent a concern which we represent Richland 2 different than any of the other counties, and at least the ones that I refed in, observed, and some of the other competitions that are taking place. And one is parent participation and being able to observe their child be competitive on the field against another team, and also some rules regarding the separation between a game played on a certain day, a 2-day skip, and another. There's no best practice that says those 2 rules, parents can't observe and the delay and the second match, from the South Carolina High School League, at least in my research that's in. So all I'm asking is that whoever has this responsibility, maybe put this out in a more formal way, maybe review it, get input, and ask the board also to have visibility of it, because we're the only, at least again in my research, district who does that. The impact, just so you know, there were some preseason tournaments that took place. One is called the Grays Academy War Eagles Junior Varsity Tournament. And on here, there were a total of 8 teams that participated. 5 other teams throughout South Carolina and Georgia were able to compete all the way to the championship. But specifically, it says if you're not highlighted or bolded, you wouldn't be able to participate in any of the semifinals or finals due to the rules set out. And those teams obviously were Blythewood, Spring Valley, and Ridgeview.
Mr. Rimmer,
Yes.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes have
Okay.
have
So
gone. But
please just look at that if you get a chance. We're a little bit different than the other areas.
thank you very much for coming to speak to us. And again, I do apologize for the misorder of the agenda, but thank you for the opportunity to come forward. If we can have our inspirational moment speaker come forward, or Miss Mackey, if you want to start with the introduction.
No problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and for the board members who voted in favor of allowing us to make the change to the agenda to accommodate Mr. Jackson. Thank you all, board members. Tonight's speaker, and I'll give you a little bit about him. The reason that he is late is because I did not specify the time, and I apologize, Mr. Jackson. I think we discussed every other detail but that, so I apologize for that. Actually had a chance to hear Mr. Jackson several weeks ago present a piece of some information to us, and I was inspired by his passion and advocacy and love of education, and I look forward to hearing from him again. I am sharing a little bit about him just because you don't know who's watching. As much as we get positive confirmation for the things that we do, so every now and then we get a little bit of hate mail. I'm sorry, when I say we, I mean me. And for the people who have a problem with my sharing something about the speakers, the reason I do that is because you don't know who's watching. You don't know what child is watching these meetings or someone who's watching it who wants to learn what it takes to get to where these people have gotten. So I enjoy sharing a brief bio about our speakers because they're more than just what you see at the podium. When you all come to speak, you're more than just an administrator or a teacher. There are lots of other facets to who you are, and I like sharing that because that makes you real. And so I'll do that now. Mr. Jackson is an award-winning educational leader who has served South Carolina's public schools as a teacher, coach, and administrator for 27 years. Currently, Mr. Jackson serves as the principal at Westwood High School, home of 2 nationally recognized magnet school offerings. Prior to his tenure at Westwood, Mr. Jackson served as a principal at Longleaf Middle School, where he led them to award-winning growth and achievement, resulting in an exemplary rating from the South Carolina Department of Education. Prior to Longleaf, Mr. Jackson founded the International Academic Magnet at Irmo Middle School, where he earned 5 consecutive excellent, absolute, and improvement ratings on the South Carolina School Report Card in School District 5 of Lexington and Richland counties. Superintendent Steve Hefner presented him with the Visionary Award for Excellence in Leadership. He was also named the Inez Tenenbaum Award recipient for his exemplary achievement during the School Leadership Executive Institute. Mr. Jackson received a bachelor's degree in health and physical education from South Carolina State University, a master's degree in athletic administration from the United States Sports Academy, an educational specialist degree in educational leadership from South Carolina State University, and is currently finishing a Doctor of Education degree in educational leadership from South Carolina State University. Mr. Jackson is an award-winning leader who believes the key to transformation does not lie in doing big things. The real goal is getting people to do the small things. brings about real progress, growth, and success. Just do the small things in big ways, and transformation will follow. Mr. Jackson is married to Christina Jackson, principal at Langford Elementary, and they have one daughter, Christian. It's so nice to learn those things about you, and we look forward to hearing from you whenever you're ready. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for joining us this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, and good evening, Richland 2 family. I have the honor of bringing forth words of inspiration and encouragement to our entire community tonight. But before I do that, I would be remiss if I just didn't pause for a moment and acknowledge our incredible award-winning superintendent, Dr. Davis, Mr. Manning, the chair of our Board of Trustees, all of our trustee members, our executive cabinet, and everyone that's listening online. I hope that this message this evening speaks to your soul, so that we collectively as a learning community can advocate on what's best for our children. So as we continue to grapple with leading, learning, and serving during a pandemic, one of the most difficult seasons in recent memory, how fitting is it that we have an opportunity right now to just pause and listen to a message that might order our steps, that may shine a light on our pathway, that may give courage to our actions and allow us to be able to do the things that are needed to be done for our children who are breathing, living creatures in our schools. And I hope that this gives meaning to the collective nature of our work, which is so powerful. See, I know that succeeding in life, both professionally in the work that we do and personally, is no easy task. There's not a book out here on this that allows you to be able to do it successfully. It comes with trials and tribulations and those things that are constantly setting us back. So today's leaders and our learners, our teachers and our providers are all grappling with how to get through all of this. And so over time, many have failed, even more have simply quit. And so as I pondered the message for tonight, it reminded me of a story that I felt compelled to share with you tonight. So please allow me to do so. The title of this story is 4 Burning Candles. So in a room, there were 4 burning candles representing the students, employees, parents and guardians, and community members of Richland 2. Think of it this way. These candles speak to our core values of learning, character, community, and joy. The ambiance in the room was so soft, you can hear the candles talking to one another. The first one said, "I am hard work. However, nobody likes me, so I am easy to put out. When my flame gets too hot, people run away from me, or they throw water on me. I believe I'm not needed, so I will simply go out. Its flame diminishes rapidly." The second one says, "I am commitment. People shy away from me, so therefore I am not needed. So I won't stay lit any longer either. When it is finished talking, a breeze softly blows on that candle and put it out." Sadly, the third candle spoke in its turn. "I am determination. I have not found the strength to stay lit. People put me aside and don't understand my importance. And waiting no longer, it goes out." Now watch this work. Suddenly a child with knowledge and opportunity enters the room, sees the 3 candles not burning, and asks a question. "Why are you not burning? You are supposed to stay lit until the end." Saying this, the child begins to sob. But the 4th candle, the Richland 2 candle, says, "Don't be afraid. While I am still burning, we can relight the other candles. For I am sacrifice. I am hope." See, the flame of sacrifice and hope should never go out from our lives. It's designed to stay lit so that each of us can maintain commitment, determination, and hard work. You see, as lead learners, you give hope to our district and our community. And as you shine, you consciously give permission for others to do the same. As a district family, we are confident that together we can ignite learner passions, discover collective purposes, illuminate pathways, and fulfill our collective promises. Doing so will allow us to be premier, which is what we want to do. So in the words of our students, I would simply say to everyone that's listening, just stay lit and you will be fine. At this time, would you please stand and join me in the recitation of our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, thank you very much. So one day I'll be able to call you Dr. Jackson when you come up here. Next on our agenda, we have item 8.1, new business, no action requested, superintendent's highlights. Dr. Davis.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, to our staff that is here, as well as our viewing public. I'd like to share with you the highlights, the superintendent highlights for the February 23rd Richland School District 2 Board of Trustees meeting. Tonight, I will begin my highlights with a message to all families, but particularly to our Hispanic families regarding COVID-19 testing and vaccination. The South Carolina Department of Education and Environmental Control and the Northeast Presbyterian Church are teaming up with a special offer designed for our Hispanic families. They will sponsor free COVID-19 mobile testing clinics on Saturday, March 6th from noon to 3 p.m. at the church, which is located on 601 Polo Road. The mobile clinic will offer drive-through testing. Test results will be delivered within 48 to 72 hours. Although open to the public, this event is designed to help our Hispanic families feel comfortable and secure in the testing process, and will connect them with DHEC to pre-register for COVID-19 vaccinations. While supplies last, families will also receive food donations from the mutual aid of Midlands of South Carolina. Now to talk a little bit about our schools and schools to watch. If you've not seen the news or our Twitter feeds, Dent Middle School is a 2021 South Carolina school to watch. The designation, launched by the National Forum to Accelerate Middle Grades Reform, is awarded to high-performing schools with proven academic excellence. Schools to watch are developmentally responsive and socially equitable, must meet rigorous criteria, and be on the path of continuous improvement. Congratulations to Principal Tamla Ashford and the entire Dent staff and school community. Dent joins Blythewood Middle and Muller Road Middle on the schools to watch list. South Carolina has 29 schools to watch, and nationwide there are just over 450 schools that have earned this designation. Let's talk a little bit about one of our former principals, who is still, I think, working with us here and there in an assisting role, and that is Miss Janine Tucker. Anyone who knows the former Round Top Elementary Principal Janine Tucker knows that her care and concern for students receiving special education services is of the utmost importance to her. And so South Carolina Council for Exceptional Children has named her the 2021 Principal of the Year. This award is given in recognition of Ms. Tucker's outstanding contribution to the advancement of exceptional children and youth. So congratulations to Ms. Tucker. I think I might be missing a page, unfortunately, for my notice, because that's all I have printed out and stapled in my packet. I apologize for that, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm dealing with some of the same challenges you
It's in the
All right.
air. It's something going in there.
Some of the same challenges you're dealing with today. So please, Superintendent. I think I got it right here. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. I'm trying to be old school and use paper, and I guess I should just use my computer. All right, congratulations to Richland Northeast High School senior Malachi Alexander. He is featured this month in a Good Morning American article entitled "The Pivotal Roles of HBCUs Plays in Our Past, Present, and Future." Alexander applied and was accepted to Morehouse College, a privately, historically Black men's liberal arts college in Atlanta. He told the GMA, many people have expressed that attending an HBCU is an experience like no other. Alexander believes his higher education needs as a Black male will be best met at Morehouse College. So congratulations to Mr. Alexander on his recognition by Good Morning America and his acceptance to Morehouse College. In addition, this is always hard to do. I am humbled by the Education Week. A K-12 Education News and Information magazine has named me a 2021 Leader to Learn From. The Leaders to Learn From program highlights cutting-edge district leaders who persevered to meet the needs of students and staff during the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me pull this down so this doesn't hurt my eyes. And other challenges of the school year. The Ed Week article published this week pays special attention to our Premier 100 initiative to recruit 100 minority male teachers to the district by 2024. Ridgeview High School's and South Carolina Secondary Assistant Principal of the Year, Brandon Ross, and Anthony Hodges, a high school's history teacher in his first year in the district, was also featured in the article. And I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you. Although there's a name on this award, this is indeed a district award, and something that I referenced multiple times throughout this year, that anytime that we're able to receive recognition for the work that we do, it is not solely the work of the superintendent, but it's the work of a supportive community, the work of a supportive board, and outstanding work of my executive staff, the teachers, administrators, and students of our school district. And so it is truly a community and it is a district award. And I'm very humbled that we were recognized for the work that we're doing. The Richland 2 family is giving with all its heart. We are more than halfway to our goal of $60,000 for the Principals with Heart campaign. February is American Heart Month, Heart Health Month, and we are raising funds and awareness for this important cause. And Richland 2 and Richland Library at Sand Hills are teaming up for a virtual week-long celebration of reading. Next Tuesday, March 2nd, we are kicking off Reading Across Richland 2, expanding our palettes with diverse stories. This year, we are highlighting the importance of different perspectives and how together we weave a rich literary landscape of connection and understanding. Nationally acclaimed children's author and Florence, South Carolina native Varian Johnson will lead the virtual Meet the Author session for 3rd through 5th graders. For middle and high schoolers, on Saturday, March 6th, the Richland Library at Sand Hills is hosting Let's Talk Race online teen book group discussion from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Visit the library's website for information on how to register. And I believe that concludes my superintendent highlights for this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We will now move on to item 8.2, our 2019-2020 financial audit report. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, for our audit report, we have our Senior Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Harry Miley. Dr. Miley.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I've got our Executive Vice President of Burkett, which is our auditing firm, conducts our annual audit, here to present his report for this year, and look forward to your comments after that. Matthew?
Thank you very much. Members of the board, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight to present the results of our audit for fiscal year 2020. Just briefly, going to provide an introduction to our team. Larry Montague as our other executive vice president in our audit group and oversaw and reviewed the report issuance prior to issuance. As Harry said, I'm the executive vice president as well and oversaw performance of our financial audit and single audit of compliance. And Zach Buchanan was our auditor in charge of the procurement examination. So we did not encounter any significant difficulties in performing our audits of the district. We received full cooperation from your personnel. There were no unrecorded misstatements in our audit, and then the financial statements and note disclosures are fairly presented in accordance with U.S. GAAP. Looking ahead to the next couple of years, in fiscal year 2021, the district will be adopting GASB statement number 84, which deals with fiduciary activities. This will result, we anticipate, in the conversion of the pupil activity funds into special revenue funds, which will change the location of those funds in the comprehensive annual financial report. Also in fiscal year 2022, we anticipate the district will adopt GASB statement number 87, the lease standard, which provides new guidance on accounting for leases. These will report these as an asset and liability in the government-wide financial statements. That will not have an effect on your fund financial statements as they're currently presented. So in our audit, we follow generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, as well as the audit requirements of the uniform guidance. We tested transactions based on our knowledge of the district and used our professional judgment in determining appropriate sample sizes. We designed those for reasonable, but not absolute assurance. And in doing so, we did not note any instances of non-compliance with district policies. So we have issued 4 clean opinions for the district for fiscal year 2020. First, an unmodified or clean opinion in regards to your financial statements. Secondly, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that were considered to be material to the financial statements. We issued an unmodified opinion relating to the district's compliance with its major federal award programs, as well as an unmodified or clean opinion in regards to the district's procurement policies and procedures. So Richland, too, is in excellent financial position due to your leadership as well as your staff. Your district has received bond ratings of an AA1 from Moody's, as well as AA rating from Standard & Poor's, which are both excellent, as well as the prestigious certificates of excellence in financial reporting from both GFOA and ASBO. Those awards are only provided after a very rigorous and detailed review by reviewers from both of those organizations, and the district has received those awards for 33 consecutive years. So management has continued to increase the general fund balance as well for the 16th year in a row. This year, that fund balance increased by $11.3 million. That brings the general fund balance to just over $81.2 million as of June 30th of 2020. That represents approximately 26.8% of the school district's total operating budget. That does exceed the required amount provided by board policy. So at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members, questions or comments? Ms. Agostini?
Mr. Chair, yes. Can you tell me what the general fund per policy, and this might be for Dr. Miley, but what does our policy say in terms of what percentage we're supposed to have for the balance?
Actually, 2 months of operating.
2 months of operating.
And I understand that, but what would be then the dollar amount for us? How much in excess are we?
I have not calculated what the dollar amount required is. We looked at that from a percentage standpoint, but we could look at that.
16% times 300 would be about close to 50.
So we've got about $30 million in excess funds right now.
Our fund balance is about $30 million above the 16%. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other board members, questions or comments? I would like to say, Matthew, thank you. You've been here a number of years. I'm always disappointed that somehow your last name isn't Burkett, just because there's so many Burketts in the name of your company. But I do appreciate the fact that we do these financial audits. I think in many cases where you see fiscal issues in districts or entities, the first thing they do is get rid of these audits. And, it creates an opportunity for issues to arise. And so I appreciate that the district is accountable to the public by having these audits done, and the 33 years straight, which means, Dr. Miley, it includes you and precedes you, of fantastic staff that make sure that we are fiscally responsible, and boards and superintendents that have maintained that. I'd also appreciate the fact that while we do have excess balance, we did ask for a 0 mil increase this year. And we're able to maintain, and I think we have some thoughts with, the economy potentially on the decline. We may want to be a little buffered. Those who were here in 2008 remember the pain and the programs that had to be cut and the staff and everything else. So we need to make sure that we're shored up for that, which we know is most likely coming due to the impact of COVID. So thank you, Matthew. Appreciate you being here again this year and the report.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank Matthew and his firm. We were under extreme pressure in terms of timelines. They helped us stay late and worked with us. I'd also like to thank Shelley Allen and our team. We were under COVID plus with short-staffed, late information from other agencies, and we got it done, and I really appreciate all their help. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miley. We do know you have great staff. All right, item 8.3, the 2022-2023 school year calendar. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, to present you with the 2022-2023 proposed school year calendar, we have our Assistant Superintendent for Academics, Dr. James and Shealy. Dr. Shealy.
Mr. Manning, members of the board, Dr. Davis.
Good
I'm
evening.
here tonight, as Dr. Davis just said, to present to you our proposal for the 22-23 calendar. As you well know, we work under some specific restrictions based on the Code of Law, Section 591425, which include that we must have 180 days of instruction, along with 10 work days, 3 of which must be for professional development. Also, in Code of Law, Section 591425, we must include at least 3 inclement weather makeup days. We get questions about that a lot, but it's in the law. And we may not begin before the 3rd Monday in August. The Code of Law, Section 59137, states that all state-supported colleges and universities, technical education centers, and public schools shall be closed general election day in November of each even-numbered year. Now, in Richland 2, our Richland 2 family has certain preferences, things that we really like to see in our calendar. So we know that we like for each semester to be 90 days. Our high school teachers especially like a balanced calendar, 90-90. We also like at least 3 days at Thanksgiving break and 2 full weeks for winter break. Our teachers like a work day at the end of first semester. We also like 5 full days for spring break and the day following the last day of school designated as a work day. The protocol that we used this year was the same one that we used back in the fall. Our Faculty Advisory Council will provide a calendar template to share with their schools on September 9th. I want to mention that this template was developed by Dr. Arnold. It kept our teachers from having to count blocks, and actually the program did it for them. Okay. The same template was given to our PAC on October 12th. I'd like to also add that calendar submission wasn't just limited to PAC and FAC. Anyone in a school or anyone in our community could submit calendars. We did have 14 unique proposals submitted. FAC and PAC voted on the 14 calendar options from October 30th through November 9th, and the top 5 calendars were identified. For the first time this year, we decided that our 5 top calendar developers would share the intentionality of their calendars with FAC and PAC. This was not a sales pitch, but just a reason as to why they developed the calendar the way they did, so that people would better understand their thinking. We also shared the calendar on social media like we did in the fall, and we voted February 7th through February 14th. Reminders were sent during that week. You'll see here our final vote. We had 4,453 total votes, which Dr. Arnold assures me is about the norm. One year we did go a little bit over 5,000, but that's close to our normal participation rate, with calendar B receiving the most number of votes with 1,014. So I will quickly share the highlights of this calendar. Our school year will begin on August 17th, Labor Day, September 5th. Our children will have a holiday on the 21st of October with a work day for our teachers, and then our teachers and staff members will have a holiday on the 24th. And then based on 59-1-370, we had to go back in and add the holiday for Election Day, November 8th. Then we have 3 days for Thanksgiving, and because we know that some of our board members really liked the 5-day for Thanksgiving, did want to share that we had 1 calendar that was submitted that had 5 days and 2 calendars that were submitted that had 4 days, but neither of them were in the top 3. In December, we have the 2 full weeks for winter break. In January, we come back to a work day with the Dr. King's holiday on the 16th, President's Day, February 20th. March follows the same protocol as in September, where our children have the 17th off and the teachers have a work day, and our teachers have the 20th off. In April, we have the full week for spring break, noting that the 7th was originally scheduled as a holiday, but we had to flip it because of that requirement to be in compliance with 59-1-370, the election day. We did call the calendar developer, because I remember that the intentionality of her calendar was that we would have a break for our teachers and our students every month. And making that switch is what she wanted us to do, what she advised us to do, and it still kept the integrity of her calendar in place. Then in May, we would be off on Memorial Day, and the last day of school would be June 3rd for our teachers, and that would be a work day. Be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, questions or comments on the proposed calendar?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Agostini?
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Shealy, so much for the presentation and all of the effort. I sent an email earlier today and we discussed it briefly, but I just want to clarify. So the reason why the November 7th, was there initially a November 7th and an April 7th date that were supposed to be holidays on this calendar?
No, the November date was never a holiday.
It was never a holiday?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was made a holiday.
Because of Election Day, because
of Election Day, which took the April 7th day
That's
away.
right.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And then my only other thought, and I shared this with you earlier, but, and I guess it's the board decision is what you had said, but I'm looking at this in that A, B, and C are so close in terms of, I mean, within a dozen votes of the 3 of them, and there are a large proportion in D and E, over 25% that didn't pick that. If we would be willing to just put out A, B, and C and show B as it really is now, and give that one more try to the community so that we can see if there's a real difference between A, B, and C, since D and E, didn't pair up with any of them. So what I'm offering or suggesting is perhaps we do one more survey to see if there's a strong feeling in the community toward A, B, or C, since D and E have been dismissed.
And if I may add, we can do that. We built in an extra week so that we could have, in case something went awry. So we do have the time frame to do that if the board so chooses. We would have to start voting Sunday night and this coming Sunday night to make, because your board policy dictates that we have to bring closure to this by March 30th. But we can make that work. We would make phone calls tomorrow of the other two calendar developers, revisit with them what the intentionality was with their calendars, correct the November 8th date, flip whatever other date they would like for us to do, and then we would be ready to send the calendars back out Sunday. So then we keep them out a week, first reading at our next board meeting, and then hopefully finalize everything that last board meeting in March, which would make the March 30th timeline. So it is whatever the board's pleasure.
Dr. Caution Parker.
I have, as one who's worked on this calendar for 10 years, and I handled all of this just like Dr. Shealy, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And everyone has an opportunity to give input. Everyone has an opportunity to ask questions. And I hope this is up for a vote this evening. But I do have a problem with sending it all back out for someone or some group that probably didn't pay attention or they're not sure. All they have to do is pick up the phone and call you. That's all they have to do. That's my piece.
Dr. Holmes.
I concur with Dr. Caution Parker. I know, working in a school district, I know how intensive it is to put together a calendar. And I think it would be grossly unfair to the staff that worked on this to make you all do all of that over again and then turn around and have to have it by Sunday. I appreciate the work that you've already done. I think that we need to pretty much leave it as is.
Is there any other comments from other board members? I concur with Dr. Holmes and Dr. Caution Parker. I appreciate the effort, what Ms. Agostini's trying to do. I've sat through some of these sessions prior to COVID, and the number of folks and the opportunities and the iterations and the voting. I can remember a day when we as a board would get a calendar and then we would get in and start shifting stuff around. But once we went to sort of this process where everybody provides feedback through all the levels, and then there's so much voting and opportunity, it's and no knock on Dr. Caution Parker, but over time it's become a very complicated, well thought out, in-depth process. And I think we're seeing the result of that. So I don't feel that it needs further action for what's brought to us. And no calendar is perfect. So everyone, I mean, there's going to be issues with all of them. It's an extremely complicated process. I'm glad you got our mathematicians involved, because it is sort of a mathematic puzzle. If there's no further questions, then I appreciate the
Mr. Chair, one final comment, please.
Ms. Agostini.
And again, the email that I received was somebody that voted for calendar B and the days were flipped. And that was their concern. So I'm curious if there were many more, but 1,014 versus 1,009, that's 5 different votes. And I'll let it stand at that. Dr. Shealy, I appreciate the efforts of you and all that were involved. And I'll let it rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a report on Kate Avid and Avid Early College. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, and thank you to Dr. Shealy for you and your team for the outstanding work on the calendar. I know when Mr. Price left, that was something you was really looking forward to, was taking over the calendar. And I appreciate the support of the board on this. One of the things that we are always, as Dr. Shealy stated, pleasantly, that we look forward to is when all 3 entities choose the same calendar. So when we do get a situation where we have the parents, the employees, and all who vote, choose the same calendar, it's good, because if we had a difference and it was close, it would really, really be a problem. So thank you all for that. Now, this evening, we have coming before you all Ms. Mary Page Boyce. Ms. Boyce serves as our Director for Career and Technology, as well as College and Career Readiness, I should say. And she's going to provide you with the report regarding CATE, AVID, and an AVID Early College program here in Richland School District 2. Mary Page.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Manning and all of the members of the board, Dr. Davis. And I would like to also say hello, Dr. Scott, I know you're on the phone, and all of our CATE and AVID folks that are joining in online. I want to thank them for being here too. And I hope I don't get affected by the bug that got y'all, because I would sure hate to mess up what I hope will be a presentation that will reflect on all the good hard work of a bunch of people who are not standing up here. So I don't want to mess that up. I didn't know before I got here today that I got to take my mask off, but I'm glad I get to smile at y'all so you can see that. So we do have good stories to tell. You know, this has been a challenging year for everybody and every teacher, but we do have good stories to tell about CTE and AVID, and I'm happy to do that with you tonight. So the numbers do tell a story. Look at our completer numbers and how they went up, and I'm so proud of that given the difficulties of second semester that we had last year, that we were able to finish 2020 with a 52% increase in our completers. And that was such a wonderful accomplishment of our career and technology teachers, our work-based learning coordinators that really encouraged people to stick with it, become completers. That is really a group effort of the people at our schools, and I'm very thankful that you all can see that. We are really starting to get proud and brag on our number of double completers as well. Ridgeview told me today they even think they're going to have a triple completer next year, so we're very excited about that. If you take a look at this pictogram, I hope that it makes a point to you. There are 8,479 students enrolled in high school in Richland 2. Please look at that number of how many students are enrolled in CTE classes. I don't have the numbers, but I would put that up against most other areas in school. We are important to students, we are important to families, and we are giving something of high quality to our students, and they are recognizing that by their enrollments. When I shared this number today with my department, we talked just openly and honestly about how a decade ago you would hear teachers feel that kids weren't being scheduled into their classes, and you were hearing things like it's hard to get people into CATE. And now we talked today about the fact that we feel like we have really reduced that situation, that students can get into the CTE classes of their choice, they're being helped, they want to, and we're so excited about these numbers. Now, I did do a little fact check down there. I'd love to say 92% of high school students are taking a CTE class right now, but the truth is, as you saw with Dr. Mack, 29 students at Ridgeview were double completers. So there are some of those spots in a CTE class or the CTE enrolled numbers. Some of those are the same child. Little Mary Page might take health science 2 and medical terminology, but that's still a really impressive number. So we just got to figure out what we can do to get that one chair moved over to the rest of them so that every single person wants to take a CTE class beyond their required computer credit. We have had a great year of awards and honors already. It's sort of still mid-year, but we're doing great. I know y'all have already heard about this one, but I just could not let it pass without claiming it as a CATE award as well. The College Board gave us the AP Computer Science Awards for females in computing, as y'all know. But I also really do want to tell you that about 6 or 7 years ago, with great intentionality, the CTE administrators and teachers made it a real goal and effort to put in computer programming 1 and 2 in those high schools so that we could scaffold up children who might not have taken AP Computer Science if they had not been able to take programming first. So we're very proud of Ridgeview and Blythewood for that, and proud of our teachers, because I have to tell you, it was not easy for all of those, what we once called business teachers, to make that leap and start teaching programming. They had to learn it themselves, and that was a challenge that they accepted, and I'm proud of them. Our third year being Samsung Solve for Tomorrow, participants and winners. I mean, this year we're already national semifinalists. We've already won $15,000 to continue the research. Hopefully we can get to that national award. They are looking into contact tracing, and I'll kind of come back to that in a minute. That's a little teaser as to what their topic is. And I also want to point out in our Aspirations of Computing Awards, which are, again, it's a Females in Technology group, and they give this award to outstanding students who are females in technology. And one thing I want to point out is that all three of those students, Ms. Parker, Ms. Aiken, and Ms. Montalvo, they do take classes here at R2I2, but they also all took a CTE class back at their home high school. Ms. Parker took Ag back at Blythewood. Ms. Aiken took Core Engineering over at Ridgeview, and Ms. Montalvo took Core Engineering at Spring Valley. So it is a combination of home CTE courses and R2I2 courses that are, is lifting these students to that level. I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge Ms. Bullington. She has won an award from Aspirations in Computing. She is the teacher, one of the teachers of the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow group, and just does a great job and has been awarded for that work. So this is a slide I'm really excited to share. Some of you, this will be the very first time that even some of my folks watching have seen this, because the Quick Jobs partnership was just last week. It is not unknown that we have wanted in our district for a while to offer students a wider variety of programming for those who are interested. However, some programs are extremely costly. And it is great that through a partnership with Midlands Tech, we can offer programs without having to ask for a $250,000 lab and a new FTE. And so as part of our Midlands Youth Apprentice Program, which is the first one up there and in the boxes, we are still holding on to our traditional apprenticeship program. We are still the only school district in the Midlands with students participating in this program. We still have our Prisma Health CNA program and our LTC Health CNA program, and we still have our Farm Tech students at Nephron, in addition to our mechatronics students at Nephron. But this year, in our March recruitment meetings, we are going to be able to offer for the first time that apprentices can also participate in all of those quick jobs that you see there. HVAC, welding, CNC, small engine, CDL. Some of these will take longer than others, and that's okay, but they are all condensed academic opportunities for our students to be able to take those courses at Midlands Tech during their school day and be paid to work in those fields while they are earning their quick jobs credentials. So we're very excited about that again. We still have our very popular EMT program going with Midlands Tech. We graduated our first group last year. We had some great stories out of that. One of the students, right during the time when I think everybody was most nervous in the pandemic back in May, was able to splint his sister in the driveway and wait until the ambulance got there. And we still have our welding program partnership with Midlands Tech, which allows up to 5 Richland 2 students to take welding at the Midlands Tech campus, fully funded and in a level of cooperation that I'm not sure has a comparison. All of the high schools have agreed to whatever the Midlands Tech welding schedule is. They will work with the children to make sure they are not missing classes in any way that affects them negatively. They will be worked with to make up any time if the welding schedule doesn't match up to ours perfectly. 2 new programs and partnerships that we have, which we are about to get started with. We are really excited. The Darla Moore School is partnering with our business classes to create an opportunity for students who are underserved in the Darla Moore School to learn about Darla Moore. We plan visits, we plan parent nights, we are hoping for summer camps, and we are specifically focusing on accounting classes, entrepreneurship classes, and identifying students who are really serious about attempting to go to the university and be business students. And we hope that's going to be a great opportunity there. And lastly, we are just partnering with Create Opportunity. It's an IT program to find and identify software engineers. And we are going to work with our seniors who are about to graduate. They will be able to take a 90-minute aptitude test, not an achievement test. And those who show aptitude for software engineering will be offered a 6-month free training program, after which they will be hired by a regional large business like Colonial Life, who is already a partner. So we're very excited about all of these partnerships with Midlands Tech and the ability to expand our offerings here in the district. I included a couple of slides on our IGP numbers. I think y'all are always interested in that. This shows you the programs that we have at all 5 high schools, because obviously they are so popular among our students. The line that I drew there is because, in all honesty, military and education has a significant number of students who want to do that. They are not CTE programs, but we do have JROTC, and we do have Teacher Cadet, and we are working hard to expand Teacher Cadet all the time, trying to get that second level, both levels dual enrollment, so that they are encouraged to examine their interest in teaching as a career. These are our diffused programs that are represented by high IGP numbers. If you will notice, these numbers on the left changed. We're no longer at 2,600 like we have for health science. So these numbers change. These are in the 300 and 400 category range. But as you know, we have 4 hospitality programs. We have an agriculture program at Blythewood. Most of those numbers in that bar graph are represented by students who are interested in veterinary science. We have architecture and construction at 2 schools, design and graphics at 3 schools, and we have auto mechanics. And we know that a program like auto mechanics with 150 kids interested in it, that certainly gives us an opportunity for growth with how can we transport or allow students to come from one school to the school with auto mechanics. That's kind of good news, because we always have to have another goal to shoot for and a place to grow. And then there are IGP numbers and programs that we do not currently offer as CTE. And the big one that obviously stands out to y'all is government law, criminal justice, and military is the other slash that you can't see because the program did away with it. We are actively working and planning on how we're going to address that in an innovative way that will allow there to be a good merging of all of those things: law enforcement, national security, cybersecurity, all of those neat things that we want to offer for students in the very near future. More dual enrollment news to tell you all about that I'm very excited about outside of the Midlands Youth Apprentice. We started our very first CTE dual enrollment classes this semester. They are offered through the Virtual Institute, and they are medical terminology and careers in healthcare. We have our first group of students enrolled taking those now, and we have at Westwood and Richland Northeast the plans to add those classes as in-person classes next fall. Additionally, next fall, y'all remember we used to have the CAT grant. I think most of you will remember that, and we had engineering, dual credit, that was a partnership with Claflin. It's a private school, and through the grant monies, we could afford that. The grant is over, but Midlands Tech will be taking over that partnership, since it will be free to the students and free to us. And we will start that with our students next fall at Ridgeview and Westwood again. We're not finished yet with our brand new dual enrollment offerings that we are so excited about. Next year, next fall at R2I2, we will be offering dual enrollment there. As you see, both of Mr. Jones's classes in mechanical design will be available for dual enrollment. Social media and business will be available for dual enrollment, and engineering technology with Miss Bullington. That will be a separate class, not offered dually with her clean energy, but she will be offering engineering technology as a new offering. Also, not in the dual enrollment categories, but at R2I2, we are adding 2 more classes that, again, I'm very excited about, because Python programming is so interesting and so new, and it is what is being used to create that contact tracing thing in the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow, that it has encouraged the children now want to take the class in Python. The State Department does not even have a course code for Python. So they are having to work on that to provide us a code so that we can offer Python programming. And then again, looking into those areas where we knew that students who were interested in the industrial end of things, we are now going to offer them a class in industrial technology at R2I2. Schedule less is the always innovative Mr. Albersi's term. I would tell you that that just means asynchronous, but he'd probably get mad at me for not using schedule less. So we're going to stick with schedule-less. Hopefully you appreciated all of those new opportunities that we are trying to provide for our students through CTE. We have all been working, you've been working, you had a board retreat on the opportunity situation and making sure that all students had great, new, rich opportunities for their lives. And we try to do that as well as through CTE, also through AVID. AVID's mission has changed from closing the achievement gap to changing the opportunity gap, because I think people realize if the opportunity gap is changed, the achievement gap won't be there, won't be the wide gap that it is. We have a video. Mr. Kenyon, if you could get that ready for me, I'd appreciate it. It's very short, and it'll start talking the minute it comes on, so it's not interrupting me. That's the way it goes. And then we're going to talk to you a little bit about AVID, and I have a special guest joining me on the telephone.
We energize. We see potential.
We inspire students and families.
And each other. We look up and lift.
We move. We are noisy and vibrant. We let our students do the talking.
And accept differing beliefs.
We care. We build friendships, study groups, support networks, and strong relationships.
We honor diversity. We expect greatness.
Celebrate each other's achievement, help one another, close opportunity gaps.
We learn.
We ask why and question sources. Take notes.
Then take more notes.
Highlight and summarize our notes.
Learn to write and write to learn.
Collaborate and build on each other's ideas.
We explore in science and computer labs.
In the world outside the classroom.
We solve problems we know.
We can do anything we set our minds to.
We persist. We're not afraid of failure. We learn from it.
We can achieve and can show you proof.
We build leaders, confident
change agents.
We build futures.
We are AVID.
You are AVID.
This is AVID.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon. I don't know if y'all noticed the little fella's face, that he kind of grimaced and then he went right back to it. It's about perseverance. It's about that life skill of keeping on, keeping on. You get knocked down, get back up. And we try to find Avid teachers who work with students on that. And we are so proud to say that we now have Avid in all of our schools. Yes, the last 7 or 8 schools came on during the year of the pandemic. And we are going to have to double down and kind of pause and let us all regroup when your first training happens digitally. It's a different experience. So we are working with all of our schools to try to get them all at the same level of capacity with Avid. If I could beg y'all for 1 minute to participate with me and make a triangle with your hands. 2 hands, and put them together, kind of make a triangle. And as you bring that up to your face and you look, I hope you notice that your hands and your arms sort of enable you to get rid of all the distraction, and you can just see what's right in front of you, what's most important. That's why we use a triangle. It's not really a pyramid, it's really our triangle. Y'all have seen this triangle and the Avid graphic before in some presentations. I want y'all to know that the top of the triangle is about what students need. They need rigorous academic preparation. They need people who believe in their opportunity to access knowledge. They need student agency. They need to become their own advocates for their own learning. And so at the bottom is what we have to do to make that happen. What the adults are supposed to do is at the bottom. We are supposed to be the ones who insist on rigor. We are supposed to be the ones who break down barriers, who don't have rules about who can take an AP class. We are supposed to be the ones who align the work so that students moving from one grade to another and school to another are experiencing the proper progression of work. And we need to be advocates for students. We need to be advocates for students. That is at the heart of Avid. Some just information for you on Avid. One thing I wanted to brag about, FAFSA, as many of you are parents, you have filled out the FAFSA. It is a bear of a form to fill out. And because it is a national indicator of how many students will actually then go to college who have filled it out. And here's the thing, the national number of FAFSA completion, 61%. Ours is at 97% for our Avid seniors. Nationally, 81% of students aspire to a college degree, yet less than 50 enroll in a 4-year college. But our Avid seniors, 94% applied to a 4-year college and 90% were accepted. I dug a little bit on what's the other 6, what's the other 10? We had an undocumented student or 2. We had a student that graduated early, and that was her goal and her intention, and she started at Tech. So she's not in that 4-year program, but her starting at Tech is wonderful. That's her pathway. And so these are numbers that we are very proud of in the Avid program. 6 years ago, I sat at a conference table in Dr. Davis's old office in on Brookfield Road, and he said to me, "We need an early college." And I said, "Okay." And we hammered out some details, and then we decided we're going to open the early college. And it was a lot of work to do that. We found a great partner. We went to all the people that we thought were going to be the very best partners and partners that we could learn from. And we chose USC Sumter as our partner for the early college. And we started working on it with a pretty rapid progression. I am now going to introduce you to the gentleman in the top picture because something very exciting is about to happen. That is Jeffrey McMicken. And I hope by magic he's on the telephone. Great. Because, really, a lot of us have worked hard on the early college, but without Jeffrey McMicken, who is the lead teacher of the Avid Early College, none of this happens. I'm going to turn it over to him to explain the 2020 graphic and to introduce you to his group of students there in the picture.
Good evening, and thank you so much, Mary Page, for the introduction here. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Dr. Davis, members of the board and Richland 2 families. I appreciate you giving me my 15 seconds of fame here tonight. But yes, thank you so much for this. I wanted to present to our families in Richland 2 kind of where we've been, where we're heading from here. We have May 2021 set up here for you guys because that is going to be the graduation for our first class of avid early college students from the University of South Carolina, who will be receiving their associate's degrees in the arts at no cost to them or to our school district as well. You can also see the number 2020 there. That is all 20 of our students on campus at USC Sumter on their day of orientation. And that 20 students that you see there pictured from a few years ago will also be walking across their stage at the University of South Carolina Sumter here in just a couple months, which is absolutely crazy to think of. One quick note that I do want to say about that cohort with all 20 of those students is there are some students in there that we kind of took a chance on, that they had some teachers that were really advocating for them to be there. One student in particular we took as really on the word of one of our Richland 2 middle school AVID teachers that we really need to, take a chance on this student. The University of South Carolina requires us to have 900s on our PSATs in order to be able to matriculate and take college coursework. That particular student was not quite there. And again, with the advocacy of their teacher supporting them and saying that this student can do that, after a lot of work, after a lot of, I don't want to say crying, we got to that point. And that student, after their 9th grade year, had gotten their 900 through hard work and perseverance, determination, and the will to want to do this, to be part of that 20 student cohort that we will be graduating here. On our next slide, you can see some of the numbers so that our families are aware, and we can update our school board here as to the hard work that we've put in over the last few years. 2 years worth of tuition at the University of South Carolina per student costs about $25,000. That's just the cost here of tuition. That, of course, is not the cost of attendance, which would be a much greater number here. But these students, since they are Richland 2 students and family members of our Richland 2 community, they, of course, are not staying on campus paying for meal plans and things of that nature. So they are able to save with our 20 students that are graduating. Our cohort will be saving over $507,000, so over $500,000 worth of savings is what we've been able to save these 20 students who will be graduating in May of 2021. And we'll be able to walk into college as hopefully our goal here is first semester juniors, able to start their majors and start their program work, and of course have gotten 2 years worth of school and an associate's degree in their time of high school. The last thing that we'll talk about here that I want to mention is now we are able, over the course of the years, if things has changed in our time altogether with the coursework that our students and our families are going through, we're able to kind of publish and say this is what our 4 years worth of high school looks like. Our students, as you can see, are doing 6 years worth of school in only 4 years in our Richland 2 AVID Early College. And those students here are in school from start to finish, from 9th grade to 12th grade, and are able to walk out with over 60 hours worth of college credit work, as well as their high school diplomas in hand. So the work is just really beginning here for our families, and we've been able to pave some really great roads for success for them.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I don't know how to. I don't even know how to express 20 of 20 did that. That's unbelievable. Do you see those summers? What's not even on here, they also had to take early bird. They had to take some through SC Virtual. Look at this. They could not choose to be band students, orchestra students, any of that. They had to make the choice in 8th grade that they were committed to this level of work. And due to Mr. McMicken's constant encouragement and support, 20 of 20 made it. And I'm just so proud. It literally gives me chills to see everything that they did pretty much constantly. When in the summers, when Ridgeview would be being painted or recarpeted or whatever, they were right downstairs in this library. He never let go of them. He was there with them every step of the way. So we are very, very proud of this. In Richland 2, we have a lot of kids that have a lot of support at home and from their community. And their path is this beautiful straight path through the woods and lots of beautiful scenery, and the sun is shining. We have other students who come from wonderful families who have a little bit harder time though. Other things are encroaching on their life, the way the grass is trying to take over that path, trying to narrow their path. It is up to us to put that bench over there where a child can sit down and take a breather for a minute. It's up to us to build that sidewalk where they can get on a little smoother terrain. Some of our students come from this fast-paced, frenetic situation where there's so much going on in their life, and they need us to build a bridge over their path so that they can get to the other side safely and with support. So I would just like to finish by saying, whether it is CTE, whether it is AVID, each pathway that a child takes is honored. Each pathway is supported by our teachers, our administrators, and our programmatic elements. And each pathway is premier. We work with each student to make sure they feel premier in their pathway. So that is our presentation, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, let me get Ms. Mackey, Dr. Holmes, and then I'll get you, Dr. Scott. Ms. Mackey.
Ms. Boyce, thank you for that. Thank you for the presentation, and I know you have probably had to condense. I don't know if I should get closer or farther away. I know that you have had to condense probably a great deal to get it into this time frame. I just want to thank you all for what you're doing and I know I've had meetings and I just appreciate the expansion of your passion. I recall meetings with you back when my kids were still in high school, when I was a parent.
Yes, ma'am.
Still a parent, but when I was a parent and my kids were in school. And it's just amazing to see how so much of the vision that you had then has expanded. Dr. Davis, your vision for early college. And I'm talking to the two of you because you're here, but I know there are a lot of people that work behind the scenes and alongside you, and I'm aware of a lot of those. Mr. McMicken, it's just, he does indeed encourage and support. Both of my children had the blessing of his encouragement and support as an English teacher. And so I'm thinking of one of the things that you all said, you teach kids to learn to write and write to learn. And he is certainly a phenomenal educator in that point. But I just want to thank you for the information that you've shared. There have been some, I remember conversations that we've had years ago, and you've got things that are implemented here, and just something for every student to expand upon, and the goal being for your college. You may or may not do that, may or may not come to fruition, but to have the opportunities for kids who however they learn. My mom always says, it doesn't matter how smart you are, but how are you smart? Mm-hmm. So to allow children to excel in whatever area of education they excel is just phenomenal. This was an awesome presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you, and for the people who work with you. And Mr. McMicken, hello if you're still on the phone. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Great team.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes.
I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm a Cape person, so you know that. And it's been real important to this community to have an increase in some of the programs that are reflected in your Quick Jobs program. So I'm glad to see that we've expanded and added that on. I am so impressed with the effort that I see in trying to incorporate all levels of students in CADE. I did have a question. I was just curious about something. For the dual enrollment, they are still apparently still requiring them to meet the tech requirements before they can actually receive credit for that. Is that correct still?
Dr. Holmes, since you are in the Midlands Tech Service area, I would tell you to call them tomorrow, because I can tell you after how many, Dr. Davis, we have been beaten. Well, we don't physically beat them, but we have been worrying them to death for, 8 years. And I want you to know now in the career and technical classes, they are taking our recommendation for what children can take those classes.
I am ecstatic to finally hear that, because that stops a whole lot of students from even being able to be eligible for the program, and I'm glad that you stated that. And I'm assuming for the quick job programs, that didn't even exist for the quick jobs, correct?
On the quick jobs, you still had to do some entry level criteria. Yes, ma'am, even in the past. And we've loved quick jobs forever, but that was a stand-in. You know, that was a block to have some criteria there. But Midlands Tech, and I hope y'all watched our presentation last night for the people in our community that were honored by our district for Black History Month, and Dr. Rames was one of those, and he came in with a big intentionality to serve our K-12 system and put in place wonderful people who have done that and made those changes that were necessary. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I thank you. I'm glad to finally hear that, because I know that's been a bone of contention for everybody, as you know, that's been in Kate.
It has.
You know, we want these partnerships, but the kids weren't up to where they needed to be to get in, as Mr. McMicken said on the phone. And I congratulate him for moving that student forward to get a class of 20 to go through that program. That's a lot. And I'm just so impressed with that. Thank you. Thank you for hearing us, because there were several of us on this board have been preaching Kate, 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 Kate. And I just want to say that's important. And I want the parents to really hear that the board heard you, we heard you, and the district heard you. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I'm not going to admit to the fact that I've heard y'all in my sleep.
Thank you. Dr. Scott?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. Mary Kay, you know, you and I have had many conversations since I ran for the board back in 2012. And when I ran for the board, that was my push, Kate program. So I'm so excited, and I want to say thank you to Mary Page, her team, Dr. Davis, and the community for understanding that not all students are going to a four-year college, and being inclusive with all of the students. I'm just so ecstatic to hear that we are finally, after I have begged and pleaded and given my voice and spoken with the community, and just spoken with Dr. Davis as well about the importance of having a variety of Kate programs. So I'm so excited to hear that we're now taking on an opportunity for students to participate in welding, HVAC, auto mechanics. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being inclusive of all of our students. And just thank you for working together as a team, because 2012 seemed like so far away, and it seemed like we weren't going to get there. So I'm excited that, as Mr. Jackson mentioned earlier, that I did not let my candle go out, that I continue with my candle to burn and be a voice for the community and our students in the CAPE program. So thank you so much. Love the presentation. So excited about what you guys are doing, past, present, and the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are very excited as well. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden and then Ms. Agostini.
I would just like to say that when I joined the board, this is exactly what I was looking for. I know there's a lot of other things that go along with it, but I know that our purpose and our reason for being here is this particular college and career readiness and the whole academic situation for everyone. And I just want to say I appreciate the presentation. It gave me the ability to see all the other things that sometimes I may not see because I'm only in 3 schools. But I thank you for this presentation. I really like the triangle that you were talking about, and it shows that as parents and as adults, as teachers, as this board and everyone here, our responsibility is to do everything that we can to insist on rigor, break down those barriers, align the work, and advocate for the students. And our agenda is put aside. This is our job, and I thank you for pointing that out, because everything else that comes along with it, you know, the finances and all that, that's just the backup to help us. And I just want to say thank you so much for this bottom row. And that, as Miss Mackey says, keep the main thing, and that's the main thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Boyce, for the presentation. And I just want to say congratulations, and that's outstanding, to Mr. McMicken. I remember visiting him 4 years ago when he was doing a video promotion and explaining what he was going to do and talking about his 20 students. And I sat there and thought, are 20 students really going to make it through? What's our number going to be? To me, that seemed like a very small quantity. And so I'm getting goosebumps right now, realizing that the 20 students made it through and are going to graduate. So well done. I do have a couple of questions. In the presentation at the very beginning, you were talking about IGP. I don't know what that is. And I sorry if I missed that. What is IGP?
No, that's okay. Thank you. That is a meeting that 7th through 12th graders have once a year. And starting in 8th grade, we start asking the questions about what do you want to be?
The individual graduation plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. That
That's
did
okay.
not ring in when I was reading
It's,
that.
it's education-y, so
Okay.
I get it.
And at the Midlands Youth Apprentice Program, are those students currently working there, physically there on site?
Those students whose families were comfortable with those students going back to work so they could be paid, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then help me understand a little bit just with the AVID program. It was my understanding that all of our students were AVID students now.
That is, AVID is a system that is created in a way that it can be a school-wide impact. And that is our goal as a district-wide AVID program, that we're school-wide. But we still have some students who will choose to take the elective that is called AVID. So all students at any of our schools are getting AVID strategies. Their teachers are being trained in the philosophy of AVID, those things on that triangle, that it's your job to break down barriers. It's your job not to have, certain things that keep kids out. So all students are benefiting from AVID, but we still do offer the opportunity for students that want to take a deep dive. Their families can identify that as an option and take it as an elective.
Okay, so these numbers that I'm looking at, 94% of the AVID students applied to a 4-year college. Those would be the students that took that
are in
deep
the AVID
dive
elective.
that enrolled in the program.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Mackey and then Dr. Caution Parker.
Just because I know you're not going to toot your own horn, and Dr. Davis, I appreciate the presentation, but just wanted to just say on record, because you're being very humble. There are so many of these things that were already in place. My son 10 years ago benefited from AVID at Ridgeview and some other things, but I appreciate the expansion and the extrapolation out and the other opportunities that were there. But there's so much of this that you've already been doing. You've just expanded it to make it even more phenomenal. So I'm just tooting your own horn because I know you're not going to do it for yourself.
Thank you so much. A little known fact is I've actually been the AVID coordinator and then director in this district for 21 years. I've had lots of jobs in that time, but I kept AVID with me because I just deeply care about the mission.
Thank you. Dr. Caution Parker.
Outstanding report. That's first thing. Just outstanding. I'm just so thrilled by all of this. And I remember AVID. When did we start with AVID in Richland too?
We started with AVID as an elective class at Ridgeview High School in 1996.
1996. And
To
I
the
can
best of
recall,
my
and I'm going back in history a little bit before any of y'all were on the board. You might have been around, James. But I don't know if you all remember Dr. Fleming. I think the world of Dr. Fleming. I've always respected him and just admired him. I called him the common sense board member when he was on the board. I taught his son in 6th grade eons ago. But I'll never forget when you proposed expanding AVID, I think it was you, expanding AVID. His concern was if we're going to start this, and we need to have a follow-up program to keep it going. We can't just do it for a year and then just drop it and move on to something else. And to me, that, of course, that just made a lot of sense. Of course, it makes a lot of sense. But I would love for him to see this report. If you can think to send it to him, or if you give it to me, I'll make sure that he gets it.
Okay.
Because I think this is just outstanding. But I will never forget when he made that comment. He didn't want to start something in Richland too that we couldn't follow all the way through. Done a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a district commitment to it. That's for sure.
Thank you, Mary Page. I also want to say, and I'm sorry I called you Mary Page, not Miss Boyce, but
No, that's all right. I am Mary Page.
Mary Page. Thank you. I want to say, and I want to give. There's been multiple boards since I've been here. We switched over folks, and there has been a commitment in one way or another to career and technology throughout numerous boards and superintendents. And I've seen a lot of growth. I mean, we've had some necessary endings that were difficult, some classes that we shut down that were very difficult. decisions to make way for new and innovative programs. Dr. Davis, you came in and you talked about we need to change how we do partnerships. And I've seen tremendous growth in how we use our partnerships, Ram Clutch, Nephron. I mean, so many big names that are now not just at the table in name, but actually doing things for our students. And it's truly a two-way street that they have advantage of our partnership and and we have advantage from that partnership, and our students and families are benefiting from that. Midlands Tech, we can't thank them enough. I mean, this board has had, and previous boards have had numerous engagements with the Midlands Tech board, staff, Dr. Rames, his predecessors, really care about the community and have done just tremendous amounts of work to make the opportunities that our students now have access to. And I mean, I think we've seen the career and technology field just grow by leaps and bounds and change and evolve. And because of the work that you've done, your staff, Dr. Davis, many others, it's taken a while to get here. This didn't happen through any one person or any one group. It took commitment from several boards, several superintendents, many different staff members for us to get here, but we've kept up with that evolution. And I think in many ways we're on the forefront of that. And so I appreciate the effort that's gone in it, the continued support from the board, the continued partnerships that we all support, whether it's staff, board members, superintendent, that make all this possible, the chamber, business chamber, and some of the partnerships that we have with them. So thank you so much for that. And Mary Page, you have truly led the way in some of the equity work before it was even a discussion to the level that it is today. So thank you all.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Caution Parker.
Shirley Boyce, yes. Yes, Miss Gregory asked me yesterday, did I know about anybody in Greenwood 52? And I was like, well, not anymore, but my twin was there for a little while, Shirley Boyce. Been called that by many people.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair,
Yes, Dr. Davis.
Personal privilege?
Yes, sir.
I just want to, again, thank Mary Page publicly for the outstanding presentation and the work that she's put forth along with our teachers in our career and technology education program at our various high schools. Also want to take an opportunity to recognize our middle school teachers and staff who are also promoting CTE at the middle school level. We're currently working on some partnerships now with middle school and CTE and STEM to make that more robust. So as our students are preparing to enter high school, they have already had some CTE experience at the middle school level. I want to also just say to Mr. Mickens and the staff that they're doing an outstanding job. I remember when we, like Mary Page stated, we talked about having an AVID early college program. That was something that was somewhat questionable in our district because we had spent a lot of our time and focus was on AP only. Mm-hmm. But we realized that there were students who could do college level work that may not be able to do the AP work based off of time. And as we've been sharing here in the district, the high expectations is for all the only variable is the time. So how do we manipulate time in order to help our students benefit from their educational experiences? So we are all very proud to see that you started out with 20 and that you end with 20. I don't think it should be lost in that discussion that we had the flexibility to bend or advocate for our students about access to an opportunity and such as that. And with caring adults, supportive adults, with efficacy in all students' ability level, and support from teachers, you see what that resulted in with that one student being able to reach that goal or that milestone to be able to continue to participate in that program. And I am excited, like Dr. Holmes said and Dr. Scott said, about what we've been able to do and the creativity and innovation. And innovation is a part of our strategic plan as well when it comes to how to expand those CTE programs like K and HVAC programs so that we can give our students the opportunities if they so choose to take advantage of them. Because as we stated before, it is not our job to determine the pathway that the students is going to take. We want to illuminate and let them know that pathways exist, but it's up to them and we want to prepare them for the highest possibility. And so we have to have the high rigorous expectations for all students. And I'm just super appreciative of the staff. I am very thankful and appreciative of this board for the support and the trust that you allow superintendent and the staff to do to make these creative and innovative decisions so that we can put, as Ms. McFadden said, focus on insisting on rigor, breaking down barriers, aligning the work, and advocating for all of our students. So we appreciate that. And I wanted to state that publicly. Thank you, Mayor Page, and thank you to our team.
Dr. Davis, I'd like to add, I think we need to come up with some kind of media push or presentation on the work we're doing in this field, because I hear a lot that we're not doing enough in Kate. That's what I keep hearing over and over. This truly shows that we're doing a lot, not just not doing enough, we're doing a lot. And I know, Ms. McFadden, you said that one of your goals on the board was to see us do education different. And I think this is a premier example of where we are doing education different than it's been done in the past. And I think we should get credit for that. I'd like to see if there's a way that we can get ourselves in the newspaper, the media in some way, and really highlight the work that we're doing, because this is truly impacting students directly in a way that's super meaningful. And I think we should get the notoriety, or y'all should get the notoriety for the work that you've done in this area.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, we have a update on our ad hoc legislative committee. Dr. Holmes.
Okay, good evening. I think I'm going to do it this way. The ad hoc legislative committee was initially formulated by our chair and our superintendent because a few of us who felt like we did not have a seat at the table when it comes to what's going on with education. Richland 1 and other districts seem to always have had a seat at the table. And we're a huge district, and we felt like we needed to have a seat at the table. And what that means is that to have a seat at the table, you have to have a voice. So I'm going to do it this way. Maria, thank you so much for these great notes that you took at our first meeting. I think it's going to be able to let me lay out exactly what you need to know about what we did and where we plan to go with the committee. So I'm going to read some of what she took down for our minutes. Dr. Holmes began the meeting with an overview of the committee's responsibility to review current bills and propose legislation, and then come to a consensus of which ones would be priority items to bring before the full board. Dr. Holmes provided each committee member with a packet, including all pending bills, and asked that the committee members use these documents to indicate their individual preferences for areas of focus. Once each person's individual selections are made, the committee will look for common areas of interest. That's the purpose. That's what we did. That's why we got together. Dr. Holmes has engaged the support and guidance of Representative Annie McDaniel, that's House Representative Annie McDaniel, House Representative Leon Howard, and has also reached out to County Council members Gretchen Barron, Derek Pugh, Overture Walker, Jessica Mackey. Representative McDaniel recommended that once the board has determined which legislation it will prioritize, they may then exercise the option to request that the House and Senate committees address these issues and meet in the evenings rather than during the day. The purpose would be to give more of the board the opportunity and the community opportunity to participate or testify in committee hearings. I reached out to these individuals because they are at the table. And we would have never even thought of that. Representative McDaniel said that if enough people, and not just the board, because we need community help and community support if we're going to have a voice. If the community would write letters when there are certain bills that come to play, and they're moving really fast in the House, so you have to be very aggressive with it. If you write letters, and when they have these hearings, they generally have them 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Most people are at work. So if we write enough, they can move the meetings to the evenings. But we have to be a collective body to do that. And I also asked all the people that I named for them to work with us. And when we have events, show up to our events. And when they have events, invite us to their events, because it is truly a partnership, especially after this pandemic, that is going to be able to move us to the next level. Okay, the next part. Dr. Holmes recommended that the committee begin with setting aside the bills that were focused on and in the overall areas of the day-to-day runnings of the school with some financial areas. And that was thank you, Dr. Harry Miley, who threw that in there to make sure that we addressed a few of the financial pieces, because we were more concerned at first with the day-to-day running, but they were inclusive of that. But thank you for reminding us, Dr. Miley. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the list of the bills that the committee felt were the recommendations that we wanted to present to the remainder of the board as the ones that we felt as a committee were important. Keeping in mind that, so before the questions come, we are not making the decision. Okay, thank you. We are not making the decision. We got together as the ad hoc committee to formulate the committee's recommendations. And these are the ones that we came up with. H3465. That has to do with recertification requirements for teachers over 20 years. I'm not going to go into an explanation of them because you can look back on it, but I wanted to give you the basis of where we were going. H3032, and that is increased retirement income from the cap from $10,000 to $50,000 to support those educators that would like to come back into the field, since we know we're about to face a shortage. That also coincides with H3134. And when I'm saying H, that means House bill. And when I'm saying S, that's going to mean Senate bill. H3134, that again addresses removing the $10,000 retired teacher, and we support that. H3589, School of Innovation, we did not support that because there's a possible conflict with public schools and being taken over by private entities. So we needed to look at H3589. H3240, out of the different, outcome of different racial and ethnic groups. This absolutely goes along with the mission of Richland School District 2 and along with Dr. Davis's incentives. So we wanted to include that as something that we were in support of. It's a very vague bill, but we have to see what it develops into. H516, vaccines for the teachers. And I'll let Libby update us on that in just a little bit. H3318, remove uniform start date and allow districts to choose. That's the same bill as S326, basically. S201, dissolve school boards. We do not support that as the committee. We do not support that. Those are schools taking over school boards. S260, establish teacher fund to increase teachers' salaries support. That is a bill to have a fund to increase teacher salary support. S315, reduce student assessments and increase teacher salaries. We support that. That is trying to get rid of some of the standardized testing that is like an albatross around our neck. and put that money where it needs to be and give that money to teacher salaries and things of that nature. Not just teachers, but support staff also, increasing salaries. S315, I'm sorry, that's the one I just said. S317, teacher salary schedule increase. A lot of teacher salary scales only go to, I think it's 23 years. And that's with the state, if I'm correct. And now they want to push that to 28 years. Now that won't help somebody like me, but it'll help some of my younger counterparts. H3609, teacher step increase. We support that also. Again, that won't really help me, but it'll help some of my younger counterparts. S324, state salary schedule to national average. We support that, but there is an issue with that particular bill. The start date for that particular bill, as it stands right now, is the year 2029 through 2030. Now, some of y'all gonna be gone just like I am. I'm not gonna be teaching or in education at 2029. So the bill is a good idea to increase, but we might want to see if we can put a little emphasis on moving the date back from so far away in the light of we are getting ready to face a teacher shortage. Now, those were the ones that as a committee that we would be presenting to the entire board for them to make a decision on. Dr. Davis and the district had the following that they thought were important. S516, I'm not gonna read them because some of them are the same. H3609, which is STEP. Well, I'll do it. S516 is the vaccines. H3609 is the STEP increase. S173, that's the national average one I was talking about. S324, that same thing as national average. S317, the salary schedule. S326 and H318, that's the start date. And S315, that was the one with standardized testing. So as you can see, we absolutely had some of the same ones that coincided with each other, and we also had some that we wanted to add on. We think that this is hugely important. I think the public elects school board members to also have a voice when it comes to what actually goes on in a school. And we have to be active and do this. So I applaud you, Mr. Manning, for your leadership in establishing this. I applaud you, Dr. Davis, for wanting to do this. You know I've been wanting to do this, and several other board members, Ms. Mackey and several others, and have wanted to be active, because a seat at the table is the only way that you can see change. At this time, Ms. Ruth, Ms. Libby, if you don't mind, can you give us an update of the bills that are sweeping through quickly? And then I'll sum up what we plan to do as our next step as a committee.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be glad to. The S516 and H3858, those are both the pieces of legislation. One is joint resolution, one's a bill that basically both of them ask for school staff to be moved to 1A and then set a date for when you return to 5 days of teaching. On last week, the House Ways and Means Healthcare Subcommittee met. They heard from over 50 individuals, one of whom was our own Ms. Mackey, who testified for the School Board Association. There were those like Ms. Mackey who were speaking in favor of it, and then there were many who were there speaking for their employees to be included in moving up in priority. So the board, I think it was like the committee 3.5 hours meeting, I think is what it was. They adjourned, did not make any decisions at that time, so they were going to consult with DHEC and the State Department of Education. Today they met again. They heard from Molly Spearman and I believe the new director of DHEC. And they, again, did not take any action on the bill. What came out, the committee seemed to pick up on was now at this point, timing, if the bills pass, by the time they passed and signed and what happens, whether they're vetoed and have to be overridden, it would be about the same amount of time DHEC anticipates that phase 1B would start. So it's a 2 to 4 week period regardless. It basically is what the committee heard from DHEC. And so at that point, they kind of ended their meeting, not really with much action. But Ms. Spearman did remind them that she had initially asked for teachers to be moved to priority in phase 1B because phase 1B is large. And so, but that would require executive action. So we're just still waiting to see, but as of right now, that one is kind of stuck in committee. Teacher salary step increase, H3609. This is the one that would give the step increase for this current school year in a one lump sum payment. Twice it has been on the Senate for the full Senate Finance Committee to meet on, and both times their meetings have been canceled. Last week, the day that was scheduled, the Senate ran over discussing another bill, and same thing happened today. So we still don't have any action. That one passed the House, and it is in the Senate for them to take up and sitting in committee. So hopefully that meeting will be rescheduled. Senate 201 and 3610. This is the one that addresses the accountability measures for the district, and basically when the state can declare an education state of emergency, one of those actions being removing the elected school board. The Senate version passed the Senate, was sent to the House, it is referred to the Education Committee. H3610 received a great deal of debate last week in the Senate with several representatives, including one from Richland County, Representative Brawley, I believe, along with Representative King and Representative Pendarvis, making the case that the legislation will fail to meet its goals without partner legislation to address funding inequities across the school district. It did pass on to second reading, meaning it was placed on the calendar for third and final reading on Tuesday, and it did receive third and final reading today, so it heads to the Senate. And then I believe if the Senate, Ms. Mackey, I might need a little legislative help here. If the Senate passes, if both bills pass each house, they'll have to do a conference committee to work out the differences between the bills and try to come to an agreement. But right now, both bills passed their original house and are in the body and are in the other body. And then S203 is one that we didn't mention, but it is one that is got third reading at the Senate today and will go to the House. This is the one that clarifies the power of the governor to remove local school board members who willfully commit or engage in a list of unethical or illegal behaviors, and it is compatible to a legislation or law that is already in place where he can remove, or the governor can remove, other elected officials. A couple others, S16, that is the personal finance bill that requires personal finance courses to be completed before graduation. It did receive second reading today in the Senate, with an amendment that it would take effect for 11th graders in 23-24 school year. So it'll be up for third reading in the Senate. And then 3588 is the life scholarship bill that would require certain English and mathematics or computer science coursework to be taken during the senior year for students who are eligible to receive the life scholarship. They meet all the other requirements. They would have to take a math and English course in their senior year to also get the scholarship. This received extensive debate on the House floor last week. Debate was adjourned and was listed to come up today, but it did not, so it's on the calendar for tomorrow. And those are all the active bills that I am aware of, but I promise you that I may have overlooked some. They all move very fast and have meetings at the same time, so it is sometimes hard to keep up.
Well, thank you, Ms. Ruth. That was very extensive. I appreciate you. And thank you for keeping our running tally of where the bills are. That's a lot of work, so you are very much appreciated for that. Thank you so much. Where we are next with that is that I have given all of the remaining board members a package that we had at the ad hoc meeting. And I also gave you a list of the choices that we selected to be selected from. Now, having said that, if there's one that's burning in your soul, that you can still submit that. If there's one that's just something that you just have to add to your list, because we want to make sure that we had to narrow down, but if it's something that is just key to you, it can be open for discussion. And I will leave that at the leisure of our chair, Mr. Manning, as to when we will take action. But I will say that considering in light of what Ms. Ruth is saying, that some of these we may have to expedite or individually advocate for, which as a board member, you can individually advocate for anything that you choose. I advocated against S419 when it first came out. That's the taking over of the school boards. I wrote a letter. And that was a personal letter. I didn't say I was representing the board. That was my personal letter. And as in the board's members, you can do that. And Mr. Manning, I think, wants to take it to the next level where we do things as a board also. But do not feel your hands are tied as individual board members to advocate for your community. Right. And Mr. Chair, that's the report of the ad hoc committee at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes, for chairing that committee and the work that the committee's done to this point, providing us with a list for consideration. Before I make any comments, are there any questions from other board members or comments about the committee and their recommendation? Ms. Mackey?
Just a comment. Thank you to Dr. Holmes for taking the lead on this. I know there are a few of us have been talking about legislative stuff for forever as well, but you stepped up and were very passionate about our advocacy and our having a voice as a team. One finger can do some things, but 5 fingers can pack a mighty punch. So just wanted to thank you for your lead on that. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey.
Thank you. And I think it is important to say that Dr. Holmes chaired the committee, Ms. Mackey and Ms. McFadden served on that committee. So thank you both for your time serving and participating in that committee work. Any other comments before all right, if I can have board members, if you would get with Dr. Holmes, if you have other items that you want to see added, if you would let her know before Tuesday of next week, so that we can, so that those can be considered. I would like to get it on the next agenda for us to vote as a board on the recommended items, so that we can get traction, because things do move quickly. And I would like for us to have, that doesn't mean we can't add to it over time or change it over time, but this would give us kind of a starting point of where we are and what we support. So by Tuesday, what's that date? Somebody who's got a calendar up that's more calendar oriented than me. The 2nd? Okay. So March 2nd, if that could be by the end of business on March 2nd, we'll close that and make that the list. So I'll be in, Dr. Holmes, if you and I can be in touch if you receive recommendations.
Certainly.
And thank you again for the committee and for the work. It's exciting that this is the first time we've gone this far in the board actually having a cohesive agenda. I appreciate that.
Mr. Mann, if I can say one quick thing.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned my other board members, but I want to make sure I give kudos out to Ms. Mackey and Ms. McFadden and everybody else that showed up for that committee. I appreciate you all. Thank you. And everybody else who came in the staff, y'all know I appreciate you.
All right, next we have our draft agenda for March 9th. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have the draft agenda for March 9th, 2021, regular scheduled board meeting. We are looking to start our executive session at 5:30. When we call to order in the executive session, we have in the draft schedule for student appeals and student admission into the district's adult education program. As of late, we have not had many student appeals, and so we will notify you accordingly when we release the agenda prior to the board meeting whether or not those appeals are pending. We have a breach of contract for this executive session. We're looking to start our public session at 6 p.m. where we'll have our inspirational moment, and then we'll follow by asking for the approval of the agenda. We'll ask for the approval of the consent agenda, which is followed by our first public participation, and then followed by voting on executive session items. New business action requested, we have the approval of the 2022-2023 school year calendar. For new business, no action requested, we have superintendent's highlights. We have policy GBGAB, which is lactation accommodations. We have policy GCOA, which is evaluation of instructional staff. We have a Title IX policy. We have an update from our human resources department, and we'll have an update on state assessments for 2021. This will be followed by draft agenda for March 23rd, the approval of that draft agenda, public participation 2 if needed, board and superintendent comments, executive session 2, and voting on executive session 2 items if needed, and adjournment.
Thank you. Board members, other items you'd like to see on this agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
there are two things that I'd like to see on the agenda. I would like to see us put on the agenda a motion to rescind the motion we made on April 28th, 2020, which was to temporarily allow the board chair and the superintendent to change the start time of the board meetings as needed while under the state of emergency. And additionally, I would like to add policy ADD face coverings for review.
Okay, so would you like, or do you want to put those into a single motion, or would you like to make those separate motions?
I would actually like to make them separately.
Okay, so if you can make the first motion, which was?
I would like to amend the agenda to include the rescinding of the motion we made on April 28th, 2020 to temporarily allow the board chair and superintendent to change the board start time, to change the start time of board meetings as needed while under a state of emergency.
Okay, the motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Ms. Mackey?
No, I will say that I know that the provision is in place right now because we are still dealing with the pandemic. We are still dealing with the pandemic, and I know that we have fluid, I guess, schedules for the people who are working at the district staff, the district office, and people who are here now to make accommodations for virtual and all. And I would feel comfortable with the liberty of you all to continue to monitor our meeting start dates. I know that right now the people who are here get to come earlier for right now while we're under a kind of an unusual set of circumstances. So I'm quite comfortable with the way things are right now with regard to our meeting start dates.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Other comments? Dr. Holmes?
Yes, I think it's a good suggestion for after we are not still in the state of emergency that we are. We may not be in, quote, a state of emergency, but we're still with the pandemic and the ramifications that go along with being in the pandemic at this current time. It's not that it's a bad motion. I just think that it's a premature motion. So I am with sticking with allowing the chair to have leeway and then readdressing and maybe going back and revisiting it after we get through this season of COVID.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment as well?
Yes, Dr. Scott.
Yes. In listening to both sides, I guess my question is, why couldn't we come up with a permanent time? Because we all know that the chair position always changes every year, every 2 years. And what we've noticed is the chair, whoever that person is, they dictate the time based on their schedule. So I think, going along with Lindsay, it would be awesome to come up with a permanent time. Therefore, the community and our constituents will know that every meeting is going to be a set time, and the time don't change based on who the chair is at that time.
I appreciate Dr. Scott. However, I would state that prior to COVID, we did have a start time of 7 o'clock for all meetings. Executive session at times would change based off the workload of executive session, but the actual public board meeting would start consistently at 7 o'clock. Since we've stopped virtual, we have the meeting start at 6 o'clock, and that time is consistent. Again, executive session might fluctuate. It's based off the workload of the board during the executive session. And the board did vote on the 28th, as Ms. Agostini stated, to give the board chair and superintendent some flexibility during COVID. That has shifted a couple times. When we were virtual, I think the meetings were starting earlier. When we came back to person, we shifted the meetings to a later time. But those times have remained consistent within the stages of the pandemic. And we are still under a state of emergency officially from the governor. And as long as that's the case, the current, as Ms. Agostini stated, the current exception to the policy that the board voted on allows the board and superintendent to set the time. But that time for the start of the meetings, since we've been back in person, has been 6 o'clock and has not changed.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Agostini and then Ms. Sorry, I forgot your name already, just like I did, Dr. Scott. Ms. Mackey, thank you. Ms. Agostini.
All right, and just to clarify something, on February 13th, 2018, the board under Mr. Plank's leadership actually moved to change the start time to 6:30 p.m. So we were not meeting at 7 p.m. pre-COVID. And the reason why I bring this up, I had mentioned it briefly at a meeting before. I was at the South Carolina School Boards Association meeting this weekend, went to a policy workshop, and they were talking about 59-1-340, one of the state laws. And it says that each county board of education or board of trustees shall meet at least every other month during the regular school session on a, regular date and at a regular time to be determined by each board during its organizational meeting. As the meeting proceeded, someone asked a question, and then I asked my specific question, stating that in the springtime we had made this motion that I've just referred to rescind. Do I need to rescind that? And I asked an additional question, and they went back to, you made the motion you actually made this motion, telling me and leading me to believe that this is not a lawful motion, that our times must be set and that we can't have a fluctuating time. And that's why I'm bringing it up today. I didn't want to go into that. There's a question about whether it's lawful or not. The South Carolina School Boards Association has asked me to forward to them the motion that we made, and also did inquire if we consulted with our board attorney prior to making that motion. But I would like to just go back to our standard time, whether it be 6, 6:30, or 7. I would like a standard time for us to be consistent with. So not only does the board know when we're going to meet, but more importantly, the public knows when to expect us to meet. Thank you.
And I appreciate it, but our board meetings are consistently at 6 o'clock since we've been back in person.
But the policy that says, that gives you the leeway, gives you the opportunity to change.
We've been given the opportunity. It's not exercised other than the fact that we're at 6 o'clock and that's a consistent start time for the board meetings. But I understand your request. It would be nice when we're asking School Boards Association whether policies follow state law. It's certainly not intent of this board to break the law, but it would be nice to have some communication from board members about those issues prior to us having to make decisions without all the information as we're right in the middle of a meeting. So we do want to follow state law, but I would appreciate cooperation from board members to be more communicative on those issues in a timeline that would allow us to make better decisions to be in compliance with state law if we are in fact out of compliance. But we do have Ms. Mackey, I'm sorry.
Let me just state also, I think that we had reasons for originally changing the board time. Right now there is, we're all here in happy spirits and we're smiling and we're pleasant, but there's still a pandemic at hand right now. The meeting time was changed for a reason, to accommodate staff and board members. We don't know. There are stores that still close early. We don't know if things will get worse before they get better and things start closing earlier, and you all need to have the leeway to be able to change the board time. You haven't since we established this time at the time of the pandemic, but there needs to be that flexibility there to do that if, you know, if things get worse and we need to adjust the time to earlier.
All right, are there any additional comments before we take the vote? All right, all in favor of Ms. Agostini's motion to rescind the exception for the board chair and superintendent to determine start time during the emergency, state of emergency, please raise your right hand. Dr. Scott, if you will say aye.
I support the motion.
Okay. All opposed, please raise your right hand or speak up. Motion fails 5-2. All right, Ms. Agostini, you had another motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Once again, I would like to add the policy ADD face covering to our agenda for review at our next meeting.
My concern with the recommendation for that is we've addressed it the last few meetings. It's been more than once that we've brought this up as a board. And I mean, I don't know how productive it is for us to continue to bring up the same motions over and over again.
Mr. Chair, if I can make a comment.
Dr. Scott?
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate your feedback, but as a board member chosen by the constituents, we have the right to ask for any item to be on the agenda. We just take the vote. If the vote fails, then we move on. But I don't think you as a chair or any board member has the right to say what we can, whether we want to do it every board meeting. That is our right. So I would ask that we call for the second in the motion, and if it fails, we move on.
And Dr. Scott, I appreciate that. I also have the right to voice concern that we rehash issues over and over and get in this circular.
And that's fine, but that's not your right as a chair. Maybe we need to go back and review the duties of a board chair, because as I stated before, as a constituent who have elected us to serve on the board, to be a voice for them, we have the right to ask for something to be on the agenda. All we have to do is second that. If it fails, we move on.
And, you know, I think the point is, and then I'm going to recognize a couple other board members, the majority of the board is the governance, and the majority of the board has spoken up on multiple occasions on this issue and has said it is not something that they want to address.
Then they can just vote it down again. What's the issue? Dr. Davis, I think, mentioned at the last meeting when the June policy failed that he wants us to go back and revisit it. So are we going to tell Dr. Davis that we're not going to revisit that because the board has spoken? Or are we going to allow him an opportunity to revisit that?
Dr. Holmes?
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Manning, at the workshop that we attended for this weekend in Hilton Head, one of the topics that came up with was that when items have been presented to the board and there has been a vote on a particular item and the situation has got voted down, it is not proper and is not what a board's supposed to do to keep bringing the same item over and over again. Ms. Richardson, Dr. Scott, I did not interrupt you, Dr. Scott. Please let me finish.
But I want to know if you can.
Dr. Scott, I'm calling, excuse me, all board members right now. I'll call to order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to finish my.
Dr. Scott, please allow Dr. Holmes to finish, and then I will recognize you for additional response.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. As I was saying, Tiffany Richardson said that that is not appropriate because the board makes a decision for the board. It is not a board that because you did not get the decision that you wanted the first time, that you can consistently and continually bring up the same item every meeting. You're supposed to move on, she said, and not address it because it has already been given an opportunity for every board member to address it, every board member to address their concern. The vote has already been taken. It is a moot point at this particular time. And I'm going to ask you as the chair that if that continues to go on, please do as the chair and move it forward, because this is not appropriate to continue with the same item over and over again. It is very reflective. It's very reflective of, if I do not get my way, I will just continue until I get my way. But my whole thing is here. We have real issues. We're in a pandemic. We have real issues. And to continue with this showboating for one particular person's ego is irritating me now. And at this point, I addressed it at the conference. I asked Tiffany Richardson, who is for the rulings, and she said that this is inappropriate. And I'm going to ask you as the chair, if it continues to be inappropriate, I'm asking you to please act on it. Thank you.
And Dr. Scott, I'm going to recognize you. Robert's Rules of Order, you get 2 times, so this will be your last opportunity to speak.
No, I get more than 2 times if that's what I want.
Dr. Scott, if we're following Robert's Rules of Order, each board member gets 2 times to speak on the issue.
Well, I hope you remember that when it's time for you to speak more than 2 times, because you know you can take over. So I make sure I keep count of it as well.
Dr. Scott, are you making this personal? Dr. Scott?
Mr. Manning, don't go there with me. As I would say before, I would like to see that in writing, and any board member has a right to ask for anything to be on the agenda. Board members have a right to vote it down. So I would like to see that in writing, and we do see this as a serious matter. COVID is a serious matter.
Dr. Caution
Mr.
Parker.
Chair?
And then Dr. Caution Parker first, please.
This is like, we keep bringing up Julie. You know, it was voted down. We wanted it to pass, it was voted down. Several of us wanted it to pass, several of us didn't. It failed. So this would be just like us bringing up Julie every single time. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And until the DHEC changes the regulations, we're in compliance, and that's it. That is it. Thank you.
Ms. Agostini.
Mr. Chair, and I was hopeful after the last meeting when we went through the webinar and what Dr. Linda Bell had said, the state epidemiologist, that the board chair and superintendent would find reason to or cause to put it on the agenda so that we could actually have a discussion. Prior to last week's meeting, I was honoring Dr. Scott and just her wanting to put something on the agenda. Whether I voted one way or the other, I didn't know how I felt. But after hearing the webinar and Dr. Bell repeatedly saying face shields are not ideal protection, face shields alone is not an optimal protection, and it's not, and additionally, not recommended prevention alone, that has encouraged me to pursue this issue. As we are a district where we talk about best practices all the time, I believe that's what Dr. Bell was stating. When we talk about we've got real issues here, yes, we do. COVID and keeping our kids safe. And part of our job is to do the best job we can to mitigate the spread. And one of those things, in my opinion, is to review this policy to make sure that we are as up to date as possible. And doing all that we can to keep our teachers and our students and our employees safe. Thank you.
Dr. Holmes, and Dr. Caution
Mr.
Parker.
Manning, again, we are in compliance. We are in compliance with our policy. We have been in compliance with our policy. We have allowed this consistency to go on, even though this is not in compliance with what should be going on. Again, I respectfully ask that we move on. Thank you.
Dr. Caution Parker.
I'd just like to say to Mrs. Agostini, I appreciate, and I'm saying this sincerely, I appreciate the way you presented yourself and your side of the issue regarding this policy. That's the way to do it. Whether we agree or not, it's almost always in the presentation. It makes a big difference as to whether people support you or do not support you in a lot of issues. I appreciate, even though we agree to disagree, but I appreciate the way you presented the information. Maybe if that had been done that way to begin with a month ago, we wouldn't be in this position now. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Ms.
and this is just brief. Thank you so much, Dr. Caution Parker. Just in terms of Robert's Rules of Order, I think that Robert's Rules of Order, we need a first and then a second and then discussion. And I don't think that we ever had a second and discussion.
We did.
Took place.
Dr. Scott seconded the motion.
Did she? Okay,
did.
thank you.
Thank you. So I will, in consideration of the fact, Ms. Agostini, your last statement that you added new information, I will consider it. I will not consider motions that don't have new information for us to make a decision. And so in this case, you have offered the fact that you got new information that we did not have before with Dr. Bell. So I will ask the board to vote now on whether we want that motion to pass to add policy ADD to the agenda based off of that fact. So all in favor, aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion fails. 1 abstention, 2 nays, and remainder ayes. All right, can I also have a motion for adding the ad hoc committee's recommendation for the board to the next agenda?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Matt, yes, sir.
Are you asking?
Dr. Davis.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair. Just as a point of clarification, there were 2 yays,
2
4 nays,
2 yays.
and 1 abstention, just for the record.
You're correct. Thank you, sir. I miscalculated that. All right. So I'm sorry. Back to the Ms. Mackey.
I presume we're at item 10.1 and to include the legislative committee? Or not?
I'm asking for a motion to add the legislative committee's recommendation for a vote to the next board agenda.
I move that we add the ad hoc legislative committee's recommendation as a voting item for the next board meeting.
Motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Mary Page, I'm glad I didn't pass it on to you, but it didn't go away. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor, raise your hand. Dr. Scott, if you'll voice vote, please.
Aye.
And motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Any other items that the board would like to see on the next agenda? All right, we will now move on to voting on the agenda. So item 11, approval of the draft agenda with the motion to also add the legislative committee's recommendation. If I can have a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I've
Ms. Mackey.
got it at 10.1, but I guess it doesn't matter what item number it is. I move to approve the draft agenda items for March 9th, 2021 Richland 2 School Board meeting with the addition of the recommendation of the ad hoc legislative committee added to the agenda.
Okay, motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please
Aye.
vote. And Dr. Scott has voice voted. It should be popping up, Zelina. I haven't seen it yet. Oh, hold on. No, it's there. I got to be on the right screen. I'm just going to carry it on through the end of the meeting here. And motion passes 6 yes, 1 no for approval of the draft agenda with the addition of the legislative committee. We have a second public participation of which no one has signed up. So we will now move on to board and superintendent comments. And I will start with Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and keeping the main thing. It's Public Schools Week, all this week, and I'm just thankful for all of the people who make education for all of our students in Richland 2 possible, to afford every student a quality public education. I appreciate that. Too many accolades to speak on. Dr. Davis, I'm sure, will list. Congratulations, Dr. Davis, for the 2021 Leader to Learn. Leadership and equity and recognition from the Education Week. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And we appreciate your vision, your staff, the teachers who work together to make that possible for you to be there. I wanted to say there are so many people, if you follow the district social media and website and emails that go out, there are so many people who are succeeding and accomplishing great things in the midst of a bad time right now in our district. And I'm just thankful for all that you do to keep the main thing, which is educating students. And at this time, trying to do so in a safe manner for teachers and educators and district staff and everyone who has to be in a building or on a bus. Dr. Grant and Dr. Davis, I watched last night the Richland 2 Black History Gala. It was amazing. The people who were honored last night, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Priester, Teresa Counts Davis, Dr. Rames, Mr. Wiley, Councilwoman Barron now, Ms. Ija Charles, Senator Mia McLeod, Mr. Fred Henley, who I think I saw yes, congratulations, he's here, of course. Dr. Bell, Dr. Jamel Ellis, Ms. Ebony Langhorn. Thankful for people like this, and the reason that I share bios and share information about people who come before us for the inspirational, is so you'll know what who they are, who their stories are. Dr. Davis, I wrote down a quote and I left it at home. One of the things you said during the interview with you and Dr. Grant in your talking sessions in the program last night is that leadership and advocacy starts at the local level before you feel it globally. But oftentimes you do feel it globally. So I'm just in admiration of these people and their stories and the passions and the paths that led them to be where they are, which was recognized last night at a Richland 2 Black History program. The main thing is amazing. But thank you all for your time, for being here. Just bless you. You don't have to be here. Some of you do. Not everybody has to be here or watching online, and so we don't take any of that for granted. Y'all stay safe, and bless you for keeping the main thing the main thing.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Ms. McFadden?
To the district staff, you guys that are here and your whole team, I just want to say thank you because I've spent some time going through the online programs, and there's a lot of information there, and I know it just doesn't get done overnight, but I want to say thank y'all for the work that y'all do, just for keeping us in order and everything. And for the sound guys, I want to thank everyone on the board and Dr. Davis for everything that y'all are doing. I appreciate this opportunity. Good night, and we'll see y'all next week, or in about 2 weeks.
Thank you. Ms. Agostini?
Just be brief. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Dr. Scott?
Just want to thank everyone for the meeting this evening. And also, Mary Kate's board, just want to say kudos to you back to the Kate programs. I'm so excited to know that our students are going to have an opportunity to engage in more classes with Kate, welding, auto mechanics, HVAC. So thank you for what you guys do and what you continue to do. And I look forward to having an opportunity to come and keep in some of those classes once they get started. Again, thank you for your leadership, and I'll see you guys in a few weeks. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Caution Parker?
Would just like to say, I mean, there were so many great reports this evening. I don't want to just pick out on one or, just go on and on about that, but great reports this evening, and I deeply appreciate that. And congratulations, of course, superintendent highlights of Denton Middle School, the young man, Alexander, regarding his recognition by Good Morning America and being accepted to Morehouse. And congratulations to you, Dr. Davis. It really, when you think about superintendents, you have, to me, in my opinion, you have visionaries, and then you have local superintendents. And I feel we have a visionary as our superintendent to be able to see the big picture more than just Richland School District 2, more than just the state of South Carolina, but the entire nation, the entire nation. And some superintendents you have to deal with have what I call tunnel vision. They'll just see one way and that's it right there in their district. And then some are, again, true visionaries. And I think that we've been very fortunate to have our superintendent as a visionary superintendent. And congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Holmes?
Dr. Davis, congratulations. We are so proud of you and all of your accomplishments. And to the faculty and staff that did all the reporting tonight, everybody has basically said that, but I appreciate the hard work that you all are doing. I appreciate you coming up here, staying at night to listen to us sometime banter back and forth. I appreciate everything that you do. And to our families that are home and our kids that are home, we appreciate you also. And just know that we plan to advocate for you. We care, we're concerned, we're here. And just know that this work is sometimes not easy, but it's a work of heart. And if you have a heart for the children and you have a heart for the community, it's really not like working. So I just wanted you all to know that everybody's appreciated. And sometimes when tensions are at where they are right now, sometimes people's tempers will flare. But at the end of the day, the bigger picture is that we have to work as a collective. We cannot work as individuals. We have to work as a collective, because the tactic of divide and conquer, as we saw with the nation, does not work. We have to work as a collective. We don't always have to agree, but we have to respect each other. And with that, thank you and congratulations to everybody, that young man that did so well, and you all have a great evening.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, to our viewing community. I want to first start off by saying thank you to our school board. There are superintendents nationally who can't do the work that we do in Richland too, because they don't have the support of their board and they don't have the support of their community to do the work. To put students first all the time and to put the work in behind that and actually do this work to ensure that all of our students have equitable educational experiences and that they receive a premier educational experiences behind that. So that starts with our community accepting that. It starts with our board allowing the superintendent supporting our administrative staff in doing that work. So I say thank you, and I'm super appreciative to have the opportunity to lead this district, to be able to do this work. I've always felt like it is a calling for me. It is something that I have not chosen to do. It's something I've been called to do, and so I do it with passion, with vigor, and sometimes with fire. So it is something that consumes me and burns me, and so I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to do it. I do want to say also congratulations to Dr. Scott on her weekend nuptial. So congratulations to you, Dr. Scott. I want to say to Mary Page, thank you for an outstanding presentation this evening. You did a phenomenal job in really sharing what all the wonderful things, the premier things that are going on in our CAPE programs, in our AVID programs, and in early college. We've often been asked, why do we do AVID? Why is AVID our framework? And we've come a long way from where schools were really fighting against AVID to now embracing AVID and understanding and seeing the success behind what it does and how it provides the closing of these opportunity gaps, while it's also preparing our children to be college and career ready. So I'm super excited about the direction we're going. Thank you to Dr. Miley as well and his team. It kind of got overlooked a little bit with the outstanding presentation. Numbers are a little bit boring, Dr. Miley, but I recognize the success of your team and the finance department on another great audit. We're doing a phenomenal job. We are fiscally responsible here in our community, and it's always a good thing to make sure that the things are adding up the way that they're supposed to add up. And we'll face with some challenges as we move forward. We'll prepare for those, as we always do, with clear eyes and with our heads up high, looking on how we can continue to improve our school district from a teaching and learning standpoint, but also taking care of our employees in our community. So we really appreciate the efforts that are going on there. And again, to my staff that's here and to everyone that's here, thank you all for all the hard work that you do in putting this production together and being here for us. And I before I wrap up, I have one last thing to say, and I've kind of pushed it back at the end because I really don't want to say it. But it is indeed with a heavy heart and great admiration that I announced that at the end of this current school year, our Assistant Superintendent for Academics, Dr. James Ann Shealy, will step down. And she has decided to retire from Richland School District 2 in June after more than 40 plus years of service in education. Dr. Shealy began her career as a teacher at Lugoff Elgin Middle School in Kershaw County School District, where she also served as a teacher, an assistant principal, and a principal at Lugoff Elementary, and a curriculum coordinator for Kershaw. During her tenure in Richland 2, Dr. Shealy served as the first principal of Lake Carolina Elementary School, which is now Lake Carolina Elementary Lower. She was my daughter's principal, and she was one of my favorite principals. Even she was one of my favorite principals when my girls were in schools. She was also the principal at North Springs Elementary and served as the Chief Planning and Initiative Officer in Lexington County School District 1. And she served 5 years as director of elementary schools. And while Dr. Shealy has amassed a long list of honors through the years, the greatest honor for me was her decision to return to Richland 2 and lend her expertise in improving the lives of our students. James Baldwin says that children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. And my daughters knew the Lake Carolina Gateway backwards and forwards because it was something that was modeled for them as children. And they still sing that song today because of what was instilled in them as young ladies. So I just thank you for your service to our district with as much admiration as my tongue could spare. Just thank you, Dr. Shealy, for all that you've done for our district. We're gonna miss you.
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Shealy, that's tough to hear that you're leaving us. Everything that you do is with fidelity and such professionalism, and you also have somehow a way of just making people feel good when they're around you. You just have a way about you that, so I'll feel less about myself after you're gone. But thank you for all the work that you've done and truly have made an impact on a lot of lives in a way that many of us only hope to emulate in some way. So thank you for your service. Absolutely. I do, I think the career and technology presentation that we had tonight is truly exceptional. We've come a long way. I can remember we didn't have apprenticeships in the district. Now we have students who are learning, getting paid, earning early degrees, saving their parents time and money, and just so many great things that are going on in this district, and lots of folks that are leading the way. And I truly want to thank our board. I think we do allow the district to make progress in a lot of areas, as Dr. Davis has stated, and give the leeway to staff that many boards don't, so that we can truly impact students in the way that we do. And further partnerships, I'm excited about our legislative actions that we're working. As Dr. Holmes said, we're much stronger as a group than we are as individuals, and this is certainly a step towards that. Also, I'm very proud of my daughter. She, as much as she's athletic, is an equestrian and likes to ride horses. She actually is in regionals for the test that they give students related to horses. And so apparently she's very knowledgeable in that area, and she's moved on up to regional champion and continuing to go with that. So she got her brains from her mama, I promise. So I'm real proud of her. And thank you all, and look forward to our next opportunity to get together and continue to impact the community and our students' lives. If I can have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Agostini.
I move to adjourn tonight's meeting on February 23rd, 2021.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Is there any discussion? All in favor for the motion to adjourn, please raise your right hand or speak, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great evening.